Good day, everybody, and today I'm going to show you how to capture an AEB panorama or a panorama single picture with your DJI Phantom drones. Well, first thing you're going to do is open up your app and you go into your camera for the Phantom 3. Alright, once you've gotten your settings into your live screen, first thing you're going to want to do is go into menu settings, go into photo, and set up single shot or AEB. Now, single shot, that's not going to create any exposure bracketing or nothing like that. So you're going to want to go into AEB, and you're going to want to choose 3 or 5 stops. Now, exposure bracketing basically takes 3 different stops of exposures. So if you're shooting at 1/60th of a second, you're gonna basically shooting at 1/60th, 1 stop under that, which I forgot what the number is. You can probably check that out right now, actually. So at the top of your radio controller, you have these little silver dials. On the right hand side, the top of your controller is a little rolling dial, silver dial. You punch that. That's gonna do. So you're gonna go down to 1/50th, 1/60th, or 1/80th. So that's basically your 3 exposures that that's gonna do. If you're doing 5, then you're gonna go 1/60th, 1/80th, and 1/100th. If you push the dial button down, that's gonna go back and control your ISO. I don't know if you can see that here, but so anyways. So that's how you set up your automatic exposure bracketing. And you don't want to expose your shot too much. You want it slightly neutral and then slightly 1 over and then 1 under, darker, you know what I'm saying? The next thing I'm going to cover is when you're shooting your panos, you see this grid line that I have here on my screen, and it looks like a tic-tac-toe box. You can achieve that by going into your settings. Then you're going to see grid. You can choose to have off, grid line, grid diagonal, or just a center point. I prefer myself grid diagonal, but grid lines or grid diagonals are fine. The reason why I'm saying that is because when you're doing panoramas, typically you're going to be doing more than 2 pictures across or 2 pictures down. Typically it's 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, all depending on how big you want it to do. Now, when you're going to be stitching those in Lightroom, which is an editor I prefer to edit with, I'll get to that later. You want to shoot in the rule of thirds when you're doing panoramas. The reason why I say the rule of thirds is because if you tend to go too far out of that frame, it's not going to stitch together, and then you're going to result in not being able to have your panorama, and then you have to go back out and shoot. So if you're doing things for clients or for people that pay you, it's just really important to do things in the first try as best possible. So basically at rule of third, you have basically 2 lines going across and 2 lines going down like that. So just move your camera, figure out where your framing is going to be, figure out where your composition, where you're going to start your pano, and then from there move 1/3 of the frame across. So 1 line, and snap into the picture, move 1 line over, and so on and so forth. That's going to assure that you're going to be able to stitch your panel later in Lightroom. I've tested that and it works just great. Oh, and don't worry, this grid isn't going to show up in your pictures and videos, obviously. Another useful tip people tend to like is the overexposure warning. So you just dial that back. And obviously we're not overexposed right now because it's really dark, the screen. But if I jack it up, let's see for a second. I don't know if you can see, but the leaves outside my house right now, you see these little, through the leaves you see these little black dots and like these little white things. That's telling you that it's overexposed. So try to find a neutral point where you're happy with it, where you're not super underexposed, but you're not overexposed. And that'll probably give you your best results, hopefully. Play around with that and see how it feels, you know. On another little note, just real quick, the quick review button. Now that's really good if you're working with long exposures, or just actually any pictures really, but more so for long exposures, because If you're doing long exposure panels or just a long exposure shot in general, sometimes you have to wait for the drone to be steady, and sometimes it shakes and you have to retake that shot. Quick review button down in your settings here. You're gonna have the option to do it shows up here, yeah, off 1 second to 5 seconds. So when you snap that picture, it'll show you a preview on your screen of what that picture looked like if you snapped for either 1 second or up to 5 seconds, all depending how long you want that quick review display to show up for. And that'll show you exactly what you took, you know, and you'll be able to find out if you want to keep that picture or not. Which I think it's a really useful tool instead of going back home and having all these pictures to delete and go through. You can just do it right there on the fly and delete things you want or keep things you want. It's a nice little tool when you're on the fly on the field. Alright, here's the next thing now. You always want to shoot in manual. You never want to shoot in automatic when you're doing pictures. Because what that's going to happen is your exposure and your white balance is going to change when you go from one frame to one frame, which is like, you know, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 when you're doing your panoramas. Your white balance is going to change from frame to frame, and also your exposure because it's automatic. It'll adjust to the light situation and stuff like that. So you always want to shoot in manual. So go down to those little bars down there. Don't be an automatic. See how much that's changed? You know what I'm saying? And that's just one picture. So if I rotate my picture around like that, it's gonna change, and then when you stick to your pano, it's gonna show these different exposures, and it's not gonna look the same. So always shoot in manual. Figure out what shutter you want. That's best. Make sure it's not overexposed like we talked about. And if you're doing AEBs, then you want to make sure that you're somewhat in the neutral, and one up and one down. And don't worry about overexposing your shot, like I said, because you're gonna get a warning if you use the overexposure mode. And it's always better to, I find, overexpose things in post, because if you overexpose things in your live shot, it's a lot harder to take the exposure down in post. So I always prefer to shoot a little underexposed. The other thing too is try to keep your ISO down as much as possible. That's gonna limit your noise and the backlight on your picture. The only reason why you want to crank up your ISO is if you're shooting at a really fast shutter speed. So because you're letting a lot less light into your picture or your videos. So I've used 100 most of the time. If I'm shooting really fast shutter speed, I might jack it up to 2, maybe 400, but that's the most I'll do. The other thing now is white balance. So white balance, it ranges from 3,000 Kelvin to 10,000 Kelvin. Now typically if you're shooting at sunset or sunrise, you want to use something like 6,000 to 7,000 Kelvin. That's going to give you a richer, warmer tone for those beautiful glowing orange sunsets or sunrises. Anything during the day, you typically want to do no less than 445 all the way up to 56. That's going to give you a nice neutral tone for your videos and pictures. Not so warm like the higher Kelvin settings. Okay, the next thing now is shooting formats. You always want to shoot in RAW. Other option you can do is shoot JPEG and RAW, just to have a backup file for JPEG. The reason why you want to shoot in RAW is because you're going to have much more flexibility in post. You're not letting the camera guess how the picture's going to look like for you. So like your contrast, saturation, exposure. JPEG, that's how it's going to look. It's going to create a picture for you and how it thinks it should look like. RAW, it's a much bigger file, it's a flatter file, but you have much more flexibility, like I said, in post. So like I said, always shoot in RAW, or option 2 is just do JPEG and RAW. How to set up those, you go back into your menu, you go back into settings, if I'm correct, no, go back to picture, image format, RAW, JPEG, or JPEG RAW. I never shoot JPEG, it's always RAW or JPEG and RAW. Okay, I think I'm down to the last little thing here, so bear with me, thank you for your patience. Then you're going to do image ratio. So you got 4:3 or 16:9. Now from what I was told, 4:3 is a more square looking like picture, but you have better resolution if you're working with just a bigger, if you're doing a panorama, because you're going to get more resolution that way. So it's 4,000 by 3,000 pixels across. 16 by 9, from what I understand, is more like a cropped in sensor of the 4x3. It's what cropped in on the 4x3, and it's a less resolution kind of type of picture, from what I was told, but don't quote me on it. So I always shoot 4x3, and then if I need to crop and post, then I'll just crop and post. So I think that's it. Now I'm gonna go into my editor, and I'll start showing you how to edit those awesome panoramas. Okay, now that we've loaded our editor, I prefer to use Lightroom for all my panoramas and pictures. Adobe Lightroom is a software that you can download from their site, adobe.com, and it's a $10 software that you have to pay per month, so $10 a month, and you get all the upgrades and all the shenanigans. So it's really, really a useful tool. I cannot tell you how much it's changed my editing skills. It's such a useful tool for photographers. So before you load your pictures into Lightroom, obviously you're going to want to go back into your desktop and create a folder for all your pictures, and then basically open Lightroom up again, and you're going to go into Library, Import, then it's going to ask you to select a source, and then you're going to want to go into other sources, because chances are you didn't work with that folder in the previous time, so it's not going to be in your recent one. So you want to go into other source, and then you'll select the folder that you've just uploaded your pictures into, and then you just do that. So I'm just going to cancel that out. Alright, so now that you've uploaded all your pictures into your workstation, you're going to see all this stuff, all your pictures. Now, if you're working with single pictures, you're not going to want to merge them into HDR. You're just going to want to find those pictures and create the panorama. So let's just say, for example, that I took a 10 picture panorama, 5 across and another bracket 5 down. You know what I'm saying? So let's say, for example, those are my pictures. So you click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, 10, whatever. So you can hold down Shift and press your keyboard. That's going to select all those pictures. Go into Photo, Photo Merge, and then you're going to click Panorama. Now that's going to bring all the pictures together, stitch them together for you, and then you'll be able to auto crop and do all these things. Never auto tone. You can do auto align, absolutely, but don't auto tone. And then from there you just click merge, and then once that picture is gonna be done loading and merging, it's gonna be at the bottom of your workstation right down here. Okay, it's gonna have all these little thingamajiggies on the bottom right here. This, depending how big your panorama is, it's gonna take a little while, like a few minutes, maybe even 10-15, all depending on what kind of computer you have and stuff like that. Now, to move on to AEBs, you're gonna want to select the pictures frame by frame. So if that makes sense to you, so let's say, for example, I'm gonna zoom in here. If I can zoom in here, this computer's kind of touchy. Okay, that's a little better. So I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of shadows in these frames. That's because the exposure was different. I did an AEB 3-stop. So let's say I was shooting at 1/60th of a second for my shutter speed. So if I do a 3-stop, that's going to be 1 at 1/60th, 1 higher than 1/60th, and 1 slower than 1/60th, right? So one is going to be really bright, more is going to be on the neutral side, and one is going to be a lot darker. So for example, I'm going to take the first shot that I did, and that's going to be 3 pictures, like I said, because it's 3 exposures. Hold select pictures, and then you go down into Photo, Photo Merge, and then you're gonna go into HDR. Then that's gonna be creating the preview, and that's gonna be your first preview of the first picture of the 10 or however many pictures that you're taking. Then you're just gonna click merge, and then that's gonna go down. Okay, now it's merged, you're gonna go down and see, you'll be able to see it. It'll be right down here. So you're gonna do that process as many times as it takes until you're done with your panorama. So if you took an 8-picture AEB panel, then you're going to do this process 8 times. So once you finish with your first set of 3 pictures, or 5, whatever exposure backend you did, you go down to the next one. So 1, 2, 3, HDR, select the other set, you know, so on and so forth. HDR, merge, until your set is complete. Then all your pictures are going to be in your workflow station down here. Once you have all your pictures, there is an example down here. You're going to click this one and then all the way down to here, and then you're going to go into photo merge, and then panorama. Now that's going to create a preview for you. Like I said, with the work, you should have no issues. So once that's done merging and you've got back down your workflow, you're going to see a big picture. It's huge. And then you're going to want to take that and start editing it. But before I say that, once you merge the panorama on the bottom of your workflow, which is the final step before editing, that is going to take a while. I'm thinking 10-20 minutes, maybe, depending on the size of your picture and what kind of computer you have. But yeah, that's the final step before editing. Once you're up to editing, once you selected your picture, like this, let's say this one for example, you're going to go up here, bring that down, and you're going to go into develop. Okay, so now that your picture has loaded into the editing stage, this is obviously cropped, edited. This is the final product. So you're going to crop to your desire, and you're going to want to edit to your desire. So like I said, you're going to want to start editing your raw picture, and you're going to have all your color tones here, every little setting that you need, your temperature, your tints, exposure, contrast, highlights, black, whites, clarity, vibrance, saturation, everything. You have noise reduction, you can adjust every color, sharpening, noise reduction. You have all those things that I mentioned right before are all subjective. So I could go ahead and choose all these things, but my picture preferences are going to be different than yours. So you're going to have to go through each of those settings and work those settings back and forth and figure out what you like. But one thing that I have to tell you to do is profile corrections. See how it moved a little bit? I don't know if you could tell, but there you go. See, it's better that way. And remove chromatic aberrations. Then you can just keep going down. You might want to work with the dehazing tool. It's like I said, work with it. It's just like your other settings. Sometimes it applies and sometimes it doesn't. You know, you might find out that it works for certain pictures and not for certain other pictures. So now that you're happy with the picture that you edited, you're going to go into File up here. Going to go down to your export settings. That's going to open up. You can choose different ways to export this. I usually just do export to. You can do a specific folder, like let's say for example Greenwich or DJI photos or whatever it is that you prefer. Or you can just upload this to your desktop. You can choose these down here. That's going to choose which specific folders you want to put them in. You can also do a custom name, custom text. Your image format, you can use JPEG or TIFF. TIFF is a lawless format. JPEG should be fine now. It's fine to uploading for websites and social media that you're willing to share this stuff with. So JPEG's fine. Quality, I usually max out at 100. Megapixels, usually do 12 because that's what the camera does, 12 megapixels. And resolution, just keep it the way it is there. And that's pretty much it. Watermarks, watermarking and stuff like that, I will go into that into another tutorial. I don't have to explain on that today. So on that note, yeah, just click export and that file should go into the designated folder that you assigned it to. I hope this helped you out a lot. If you like this, subscribe and like to my channel, and feel free to comment on this video. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. Stay tuned for more tutorials and videos, and happy flying.